Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on Clemson at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm, as always, your host, Tiger Paul Craven. Got Jordan waiting in the back. He'll be on in just a few moments. Got a ton to talk about in tonight's show. Obviously, going to talk some transfer portals. Clemson's got some new entries that we haven't talked about since our last show. We were not on the air last week due to Christmas, obviously, but we're back and excited to talk some Clemson football with you guys. We'll talk some roster retention. We'll talk possible coaching changes, maybe a little college football playoff at the end, but we got a jam-packed show for you guys tonight. But before we get into the show, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. It would really help us out. We're on the road to 6,000 subscribers, so if you could help us out with that, be greatly appreciated. Share this video. Hit that like button while you're in here. This is a live video, and those likes really help us out, specifically on these live videos. And last but certainly not least, we have the Super Chat feature available for you guys. If you want to support me and Jordan do here on the Clemson channel, hit that Super Chat feature. It'll also guarantee that your comment and or question associated with your Super Chat is read and responded to right here during this live episode. But with all of that said, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. What's up, Jordan? How you doing tonight?
Good, man. Happy New Year, first and foremost. Hope you had a wonderful Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all of that. And just glad to be back. I always hate when we have these, 2-week hiatuses.
Yeah.
But, holidays are the holidays. And just glad to be back. And hopefully we can give you all some entertainment during this snooze fest of a college football playoff game that we got going on. Oregon's fighting, but sheesh, it's been rough.
Hey, Oregon. I guess Oregon didn't belong in the 12-team playoff, man.
Yeah,
they just didn't belong.
That's what I've been told. I mean, that if we're being
that's
consistent,
what everybody says, right? Blowouts equals you shouldn't have been there. So,
yep.
Sorry for your loss. No, I'm just kidding. It's fun to talk about. But yeah, Happy New Year to everybody. Hopefully everybody had a great New Year's Eve last night and rung in the new year in style and spent time with friends and family. Hope everybody had a good Christmas as well. Hope you got everything you wanted. Hope you got to spend time with your loved ones, whoever they may be. And appreciate everybody being in here. We got 40 people in the live chat already. Thank you guys so much for being here, showing up during a college football playoff game, regardless of how lopsided the score may be. We appreciate your time and being here. We got John Sarian in the chat already. Chris is in here. Gung is in here. Jay's. And I think that is it so far in the live chat. So thank you guys getting into the live chat. We will get to your questions at the end of the show, as we always do. So make sure you guys are in there commenting, chatting it up with each other, and we'll chop it up with you guys at the end of the show when we're done with our planned portion. But Jordan, how was your Christmas?
It was good, man. It was real good. I mostly got new clothes. I'm always happy to get new clothes, so that was cool. Spent some time with family. Just had a good time. New Year's party was a lot of fun last night. So I'm feeling good, refreshed, ready to start the new year. It's kind of crazy. This is our first show of 2025. It doesn't. I know we say this at like every year. It's like, oh my God, man, 2024. I can't believe it's 2024 now. It's 2025. Like this doesn't even feel like a real year, but it really is. It really is cool. We started doing this show in 2022.
That's
and
crazy.
It's incredible that we've made it this far. So I don't have any drink with me to do a toast, but here's to another great year, my brother.
That's right. Another great year. I will toast you with my brand new Clemson cup that I got for Christmas.
It looks sick, bro. Where did they I don't know who got it for you, but where did they get it from?
My in-laws got it for me, and I have no clue where they got it from. But, shout out to them.
It's beautiful.
One of my very many great Christmas presents, as did I spend time with family and all that fun stuff. So it was a great holiday season. Christmas, one of the greatest times of year. It's always fun to spend time with family and get some much needed time off of work, and
Oh yeah.
of us that are lucky enough to do that. So
Yeah.
shout out to everybody. Um, thoughts, I guess, for before we move on into the show with the victims in New Orleans from that senseless act of um, violence overnight that took the lives of, I don't know, 10, 15, probably going to turn into more people, unfortunately. And obviously, the events surrounding that are under investigation and seemingly growing,
Yeah.
unfortunately, the more they dig into it. So hopefully there's no other incidents that are added to that plot, or whatever it was, that group of people that planned that, or whatever it turns out being. But thoughts for all those victims and their families. I mean, such a joyous time of year can turn into absolute horror in the blink of an eye, and that's certainly what happened. So, um, you know, I hate it. I hate it.
Absolutely, man. Thoughts and prayers to the people of New Orleans. Um, just that really, hearing about that really put a damper, I think, on just everybody in America's, New Year. Like that just you never want to see that, and it's just a senseless act of evil.
Yeah.
So didn't want to, oh, I just knocked my ring light over. I didn't want to start this show off on a somber note, but we did want to address that.
Yeah.
And here's to nothing like that happening moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hopefully they have uncovered the entire plan and they can prevent whatever the rest of that was supposed to happen following that. Hopefully they can prevent that from happening. Trust that the authorities will do a good job and make sure that the rest of the plan is foiled, if you will. But yeah, thoughts and prayers to those people and their loved ones. But yeah, hope everybody had a happy holiday. Thank everybody for being in here. We got 46 people in the live chat right now. Hit that like button while you're in here. It would really help us out. And with that said, Jordan, it is time to dive into the show. And we're going to lead the show off, obviously, with the transfer portal. This tis the season, right? Tis the holiday season. And what goes right along with the holiday season and the world of college football? It is recruiting. It is the transfer portal. It is the pandemonium, the free agency, if you will, that the offseason, at least the December/January offseason of college football, has truly turned into. And obviously, Clemson is like every other program around the country where we are affected by the transfer portal, albeit may be affected a bit less than the rest of the majority of college football, I should say. We're not out here like a Purdue or programs like that with 30 plus transfers, but we do have some losses to talk about tonight. Obviously, in previous shows, we've already covered the loss of Troy Stellato, Sherrod Colville, Noble Johnson, but we got a couple new ones to add to the list. Obviously, Jackson Crosby, a walk-on guy, hit the portal. You're probably going to see a few more of those type of guys hit the portal due to the roster going to eventually being cut down to 105 come July timeframe. So a lot of those walk-ons that Clemson tends to carry on the roster, they're not going to be able to do that anymore. So no big surprise there for Jackson Crosby, but a couple scholarship guys, a couple guys that contributed this season, and A.J. Hoffler and Trey Williams entered the transfer portal. Trey Williams entering the transfer portal today, which may have come to some surprise to some Clemson fans because the portal was closed as of Saturday, but he is a graduate, so he can transfer anytime he wants. The transfer portal does not have to be open for him. He can transfer, as could any graduate person, player for Clemson can transfer at any point in time from now until the beginning of the season, if you will. So Trey Williams hits the portal. A.J. Hoffler hits the portal. Your reaction to those two guys specifically and the impact that it will have on the Clemson Tigers moving forward?
Yeah. With
Still there, Jordan? I think you're frozen. Can anybody in the chat hear me?
My screen went black. I don't know if did you hear any of that?
I did not hear any of that, but you can start fresh right now because we can hear and see you.
All right, cool. Let's try that again. Obviously, Trey Williams being the biggest contributor of the two, I'll start with him. A guy that has been in the program a long time, a rotation piece that has given Clemson a lot of good minutes at good snaps, I should say. This isn't basketball. At the defensive tackle position, had struggled with injuries early in his career, and it had been kind of in and out of the lineup. But a really productive player when he was in, and had Clemson's only 2 sacks in the playoff game against Texas. I think you're going to feel this one a little bit. I think that this one hurts a decent bit. We'll see what, depending on the decision of DeMonte Capehart, and kind of how the defensive tackle room sort of rotation sort of shakes out next year. But Trey was an experienced player that you could have gotten back this year. But when you're focusing on a lot on roster retention, there is there is an element of some guys you're going to have to let go. I'm not saying that's necessarily what happened here, but I think it's an opportunity for Trey to get back and go somewhere where he can be a full-time starter, because I think he would be a starter on a lot of college football programs. I thought maybe the NFL draft would have been an option for him, but sometimes with guys with injury history that can affect it. But we'll see how big of a loss it is ultimately for the defensive tackle depth, and with the decision of DeMonte Capehart. But I think Trey is a guy you could have used next year. I think I think that hurts a little bit. And then with AJ Hoffler, a guy that got in spot duty at times, some garbage time. Occasional, important snaps, but a player with a lot of potential that I don't think has fully realized it yet. I think he's a guy that you couldn't get him in. I don't think he was big enough, good enough at setting the edge in order to really play a whole lot. And it was very clear at the times he did get in why there was a hesitancy to play him in some big time minutes, even with the question marks you had at defensive end. But it is a hit on your defensive end depth. Clemson probably is going to have to survey the portal for another depth piece at defensive end. I don't think you're going to get another Will Help type, but you need a guy. You need a body that can give you some decent minutes, decent snaps if asked to. Because I have a lot of questions about that room right now, even with the addition of Will Help. So I think that one. I think these are 2 losses that I think Clemson might have to address, depending on. I think defensive end they're going to have to address. We'll see about defensive tackle, but best of luck to those 2 guys. I think AJ Hoffler's already been linked to Georgia Tech, and that there's no secret, kind of what Georgia Tech's doing. In the portal and in recruiting right now. And we'll see about Trey. I've heard some speculation. I've heard some rumblings that, he's been linked to Oklahoma. I think that would make a lot of sense. Reunite with Brent Venables. And I think he would play and start on that defensive line, or at least be one of the front runners to start on that defensive line. So, and reunite with his old defensive coordinator I think it would make a lot of sense if they take him. So, best of luck to those 2 young men.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 2 guys that, really Trey Williams, not excited to lose a guy like Trey Williams, right? He has contributed pretty significantly this season. I think he had 300 snaps on the season. You saw his presence in that game against Texas where he had 2 sacks against Quinn Ewers. So clearly he's a guy that has a certain skill set, but I think that with the return of Woods and you got, Stephylan Green, you got a bunch of young guys in that defensive tackle room. I think he's just looking for a role where he probably is on the field a little bit more. And I don't think he felt that was going to be the case going forward at Clemson. So I think his decision makes sense. You bring up Oklahoma. I think that would make a ton of sense with Brent Venables and the familiarity there. And he would certainly help that defense that needs some help. And then A.J. Hoffler, I think he's a guy with potential, right? And that's what he showed on the field this year was he does have a lot of potential that he could grow into, but he's just not that guy right now. And if he's looking for significant playing time, it's not going to happen at Clemson right now. He saw the writing on the wall when Clemson went out and brought in Will Helt from Purdue. I mean, that guy's going to take the bulk of the snaps opposite TJ Parker this year. That's why they brought him to Clemson. That's the reason that he signed with Clemson. And A.J. Hoffler sees a move like that, and he's like, okay, well, time for me to move on. And if, as much potential as I think A.J. Hoffler has and some flashes that he showed this season, he showed a lot of not good things on tape this year too. You talk about setting the edge. You talk about the run fits, all that kind of stuff. So never good to lose guys, but I think Clemson filled it well with Will Helt. But now that you have the exit of A.J. Hoffler, I do agree that Clemson should probably look into the portal for maybe another defensive end immediately right now. And then there could be some other positions of need going forward. Linebacker, you talk about the defensive tackle. Maybe you need a depth piece there. But they could wait until the April window to address some of those issues once they get out of spring practice and evaluate where everybody is, how far those young guys have come. So it'll be interesting to see, but the official portal is closed for all of Clemson's undergrad players. Like I said, we still, it's not out of the realm of possibility that a grad could up and hit the portal. But we have weathered the bulk of the transfer portal storm, at least before spring practice, right? There'll be another one in April after spring practice, but obviously the big news of the portal season, I guess, for Clemson was that we took a player not named a quarterback as a portal transfer, and Tristan Smith and Will Hill. We've talked about those guys and how excited we are to have those guys as Clemson Tigers and how much they're going to contribute. Will Helt's going to be a starter for this team this year. Tristan Smith, I don't think he's a starter for the team next year, but he's definitely, I think, going to contribute to that team, and he's a much-needed body type in that room and a guy that has proven that he can produce in a big way. So excited about the transfer portal as far as the work that Clemson's done so far. I don't think any Clemson fan out there could really complain about what has gone on so far in the transfer portal season for the Clemson Tigers. And that rolls right over into our next topic, Jordan, and that is roster retention. And this is huge for Clemson. As much as Dabo Swinney and the Clemson program has been beat up, some of it rightfully so in the media and on YouTube and in comment sections and message boards and all that kind of stuff, with the reluctancy to get out there and recruit the transfer portal and, just allowing really depth pieces to leave year in and year out and not replacing those guys, just replacing them with high school. We got younger and younger. But with the roster retention that we have this year, looking into next season, we're probably going to be one of the more veteran teams in the country because of our ability to retain guys. And shout out to the 110 Society. Shout out to the new approach that Clemson has kind of taken, specifically this offseason with posting, signing our guys that are on the roster and retaining our guys and making a big deal about it and tagging those guys on social media and really bringing up Clemson's presence as far as NIL and our ability to pay our guys and keep our guys home. And, Cade Klubnik was kind of the last domino to fall most recently, announcing that he was returning. Bryant Wesco, obviously, TJ Moore, Sammy Brown, Peter Woods, TJ Parker, Ashton Hampton, Avian Terrell. The list goes on, but all guys that have been locked up by the 110 Society and are coming back for next season. So your thoughts, Jordan, on not only Clemson's coaching staff and their ability to retain their roster, but also the 110 Society and how much they contributed this, and they really did come through financially for the Clemson Tigers and keep a lot of these guys home, because I rattled off quite a few names there, and a lot of those guys got some pretty hefty offers from other schools. They were pursued heavily by other schools, but they stay home with the Tigers to run it back for another season, and couldn't be more excited about it.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. I think this is one of the most important off seasons for Clemson that we've had in quite a while. And the question about this program was its ability, with the philosophy that Dabo has preached about. We want to be a program that's about retaining our players, and we want to build through the high school ranks, and we want to reward the guys that chose Clemson, and we want to keep them here. You have to be able to practice what you preach. And I think you have to be able to, in this modern age of college football, you have to be able to come through financially. And I think what Clemson did in terms of roster retention is about as impressive of a feat I think I've seen any program do. To retain this many big time pieces is huge. I think the biggest wins were retaining Peter Woods and TJ Parker. They were guys that there was a lot of speculation, plenty of tampering going on. But Clemson came through, and they paid them what they were worth, and kept them home. I think at the end of the day, they had a deal that was fair. Did I go out for a second?
Yeah, you went out for a second.
Okay. I said, I'll say it again. Just for the record, Peter Woods and TJ Parker loved Clemson and wanted to be at Clemson. They really didn't have much intention of leaving. But they wanted to make sure that they were, compensated for, what they're worth to this team. And Clemson was more than willing, and the dedication to making sure that Clemson was in a position financially to be able to come through was, that was about as big of a statement, I think, as you would have seen. And of course, retaining Cade Klubnik to coming back for his senior year.
Yeah.
Clearly one of the front runners, top returning quarterbacks in college football for next season. It's massive, man. And I'm just really excited. We're going to talk about the prospects of this 2025 team and how it relates to how, maybe, some of the potential coaching changes that are coming up, but the roster is going to be there, man.
Yeah.
I think what this coaching staff, what Dabo and this coaching staff, and what the 110 Society did, was able to do in terms of returning Clemson's top talent is, I think, is a massive statement, and not just for next year's team, but or I guess this year's team now, but future recruits and future teams, because Clemson has made the statement that they are going to they are going to be a team that is competitive in NIL, and they are going to be able to compensate their players at a competitive level. And because I think, like I said, and I've said this multiple times on previous shows, I think Clemson with NIL has had a messaging problem. They have not put forth that we do consider NIL important, and we are going to take it as seriously as other programs.
Yeah.
And I think the shift that you've seen in terms of the messaging and the broadcasting of Clemson's NIL efforts, even just simple things that like the 110 Society posting, those graphics that they signed all these players like that. It's not a big thing to do, but it's a statement that this is an important part of our program. And so that's my long spiel, but I was thrilled at how they were able to close the deal, and keep your core guys home. And we'll see. We're still waiting on a couple of more decisions. Blake Miller, Antonio Williams, and DeMonte Capehart being the main three. But I think you're in good shape, regardless for next season, with what you were able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and I don't think it can be overstated how important this shift is for the Clemson Tigers going forward as a program, because it quails some of those eye-rolling, tired arguments that we as Clemson fans hear online and on in message boards and on YouTube and in various college football groups that we're involved in. Right, we hear it all the time. And for 110 Society to step out there and not only financially step up to bring home, or not bring home, but keep home all of our big name talent that we needed to bring back to be, to take the next step for the 2025 season, right? But to start posting it on social media and making it a little bit more public. Like you talk about the social media post, right? There's certain things that Clemson hasn't done really well when it comes to this NIL stuff, and some of that's starting to turn, right? With the very public announcements of who they're signing and all this kind of stuff, and taking care of their current roster. They can do a lot better with the messaging of NIL at Clemson. And there's an untapped, I think, resources at Clemson that they're not getting as well as just like routine fans, getting those people to donate to your 110 Society and stuff like that. And people are more apt to donate to it when they see you doing stuff like this. So I think it's super important. Kept home pretty much everybody that we needed to. As far as big name talent, we haven't lost anybody of significance yet. But as you mentioned, we got a couple NFL decisions coming that are going to make Clemson fans very excited, or make Clemson fans happy for that player, but disappointed maybe that they're not coming back and running it back for just one more season, right? And you mentioned the three guys, the three biggest names here that we're still currently waiting on decisions for, and that is DeMonte Capehart. We talked about Trey Williams hitting the portal. Maybe he knows something that we don't know. Maybe he knows DeMonte Capehart's coming back, right? And he's like, well, yeah, I got to go ahead and hit the portal because I'm not going to start over him, right? That's just my wishful thinking happening. Antonio Williams and then Blake Miller. Of these three guys, Jordan, do you have any feel on any of them? Any opinion on which one would mean a little bit more to come back to Clemson? What are your thoughts on these three NFL decisions? Really, not the only three, but the three big ones that we're waiting on.
Yeah, I think all three have some real decisions to make here. I believe Blake Miller got around a fourth round grade from the NFL. So, that's kind of right in that sweet spot, 50-50, like, should I stay, should I go? I do know that Clemson has put together a really competitive package for him. So, I mean, it's ultimately up to him to decide on, what decision he wants to, what route he decides to take. Antonio Williams is pretty much the same. Like, he got a mid-round grade. He has a real decision to make. I think if I had to lean, I think you do get him back for another season. I think Clemson has put together a really strong deal for him. I think it's just a matter of him signing off on it. And he'll make that announcement when he's ready.
Yeah.
But and then with DeMonte Capehart, that one is kind of, I think that one is the most in question right now. I could totally see him going to the NFL.
Yeah.
He's been in the program a really long time. And at a certain point, a guy with the injury history that he has, maybe he doesn't want to try and stick it out for another year and wants to go pro. I don't want to speak on things I don't know because this stuff is really, really fluid. But I think that one is the most in question, that you'll have him back for next year, if I had to say so. But we'll see. If you get all three back, that's fantastic.
I mean, that'd be amazing if we got all three back. But yeah, I think I agree with you. I think DeMonte Capehart is probably leaning a little more NFL, a little less Clemson. But again, it'd be amazing to have him back. Everybody knows I mean, you see the difference when he's on the field. You absolutely see the difference. And when you think about your starting defensive line possibly being T.J. Parker, Will Helt, Peter Woods, and DeMonte Capehart, that's a heck of a starting defensive line. Will that ultimately end up happening? That remains to be seen. I hope we get DeMonte Capehart back, but I'm like you. I think he's leaning a little more NFL. Antonio Williams and Blake Miller, I think those are huge for Clemson. Blake Miller, I think specifically, is really big. It would be amazing to have him back on the offensive line, although how much could he improve his draft stock if he came back? I don't know. He had an amazing season. If you look at his Pro Football Focus numbers, he graded out as one of the highest graded offensive linemen. Definitely the highest on Clemson, but amongst the highest in the country when it comes to offensive linemen. So I mean, he's a really good tackle. We'll see what decision he makes. I would love to have him back. Obviously, it would mean that you have the best piece of your offensive line coming back from last season. Antonio Williams, another guy that I think would, without a doubt, bolster this roster and just make it that much better than it is. Could Clemson still be fine without Antonio Williams? Sure. Would the offense be the same? No, it wouldn't. You're not going to replace a guy like Antonio Williams. I know we got TJ Moore. I know we got Bryant Wesco. I know we got Tyler Brown coming back, but Antonio Williams is a difference maker. And that was very clear this season. So if we could get him back for one more year, hopefully the package that the 110 Society put together for him entices those guys a little bit to come back. And that's kind of the beauty of it, right? With the adage of NIL in this era of college football is you can kind of pluck people away from the NFL, if you will, for a season, because you can pay them comparable money, if you will, that they would make in their rookie seasons as NFL players. So hopefully we get all three back, but again, we'll see. Hopefully there's some announcements coming in the next couple weeks for those guys staring down NFL decisions.
Absolutely. You want to hit these super chats? Oh, actually, yeah. Let's do the book read.
Yeah,
first.
let's do a quick ad read real quick, and then we'll get to the super chats. Sorry, I know we've talked, and those super chats have been there for a while, but all right, guys. I'm sure you guys know by now, but if you do not know, Mark Rogers has a book out called Disputed National Champions, College Football's Historic 1990s Reset. If you are yourself a college football historian, or you know somebody that is a college football historian, or just interested in, some of the crazy events of the 1990s and kind of how it reshaped college football and kind of made it what it is today, and some of the crazy crowning of champions that we did back in the 1990s. This is your book. Check it out, Disputed National Champions, written by our very own Mark Rogers. You can find it over on Amazon. The page is right here. $9.99 will get you a paperback copy of it. If you got the Kindle, you can buy it on the Kindle app for 99 cents. Make sure you rate and review. Just leave a comment about the book over there. Let everybody know what you thought of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't recommend this book enough if you are just a junkie, college football junkie. Lots of information, but all compacted in a short read. So I think it's the perfect book if you are just a college football historian, junkie, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I'll make sure to give it a look. Link is in the description.
Make sure you guys use the Amazon link while you're purchasing that book as well. That'll help the channel out greatly there. And as always, go check out the official Voice of College Football Twitter page or X page, whatever you want to call it. I don't care what you call it, but the official account for the Voice of College Football Network. the best debate, discussion, and analysis with no offseason over on X. Go check it out, the Voice of College Football page.
Yep, go give it a follow. Post stats, highlights, schedule updates, anything related to the Voice of College Football Network. You can find it on the Voice of College Football X account. So y'all make sure to go give it a follow.
Absolutely. And while you guys are doing that, make sure you guys go give Jordan a follow over on X as well. He's always posting stuff over there, and he'll be a great follow. I guarantee you won't regret it. His handle is right there on the screen.
Yes, it is.
All right, Jordan, let's go ahead and get to those super chats real quick, and then we will move right along into our next topic of the night.
Let's do it. Thank you, JT. He sent us two. First off, with that $10 super chat, he says, I'll be honest, the entire college football landscape has changed. I don't think we will continue to see the undefeated dynasty of the past, including the big SEC teams. Culture matters long term. I mean, I think you're right. I don't think you're going to see many, undefeated, teams anymore. I mean, the format of the college football playoff means, you're probably not going to have many teams that are undefeated to begin with in the playoff. It's going to be a different structure. And with the introduction of NIL and the transfer portal, and teams just are not as deep across the board as they were able to accumulate in years past. And so, I think culture is going to matter long term. I think being able to compensate your players is important as well. But culture is what's going to keep guys home. And I think Clemson has done a good job with that, phenomenal job with that this offseason, and it sets you up in a really good position if you can address the couple of holes here and there to be a really, really good football team in 2025. Don't want to go any further than that, but things are looking up, I think, for the prospects of this team next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
But go ahead.
Oh yeah. I agree. The college football landscape has changed permanently. The years of, I think, just you take Alabama, right? That run that Nick Saban made. I don't know that is going to be a thing that's possible in the new age of college football, because it's just college football is turning a little bit closer to more of an NFL type product. Not that, I hope it never turns into the NFL, because why would I want it to do that? I can just go watch the NFL if I want to watch the NFL, right? But you talk about the transfer portal. It's basically free agency every single year. So it's a little bit more unstable than the NFL, because you don't got guys locked in for multi-years, right? Basically, everybody in college football is on one-year contracts. They can transfer the very next season if they choose to, right? So to JT's point, culture 1,000% matters. And I think that's where you're seeing Clemson start to excel a little bit in the transfer portal era, because they retain most of their guys. Not that we don't lose anybody. Obviously, everybody that just watched the college football playoff game between Texas and Arizona State saw a former Clemson football player seal the deal for Texas in that game, and Andrew Makuba, right? So we do lose guys, but we don't lose them at the rate that a lot of other people do, a lot of other programs do. And I think that's a testament to the Clemson culture. And JT, I think I agree with you in the fact that that's going to help Clemson long term be able to weather some of these storms of the constant transfer carousel that we go through season in and season out, right? So culture definitely matters in this age of college football. And it's like me and Jordan have always said, is Clemson, we don't need to go out there and outbid everybody. We're never going to do that. So there's no use in worrying about trying to do that, right? We got to we've said it on here time and time, we got to get in the ballpark. And then we can sell the rest of the program that was always sold and made us very successful in recruiting before NIL, right? So if we can get into the ballpark with our NIL numbers, the rest of the program will sell itself, and we'll continue to recruit at a very high level. We'll continue to retain majority of our players at a very high level. We only lost so far, barring the spring portal transfer season, we only lost 5 scholarship guys off of this team via the transfer portal. That's pretty freaking amazing in this age of college football.
One of the fewest in the country so
because
far.
If you think people didn't come knocking on TJ Moore's door, right? If you think they didn't come knocking on Brian Wesco's door, or TJ Parker, or Peter Woods, or name the guy, they did, but they're still at Clemson. So culture does matter, absolutely matters. Money also matters as well.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we're treating NIL a little bit more seriously, at least public facing at Clemson now, than we were in the past.
100%. And JT's other super chat, thank you so much for the $2. He says future looks good if you're a Clemson fan. Yeah, I think there are a lot of reasons to feel optimistic. With the changes in direction and philosophy that I think this program has made,
and the talent that you saw retained.
Yeah,
that roster coming back next year, it's a promising roster. Yes. I'm not saying they're going to run off and win a national title in 2025, but I think there's a chance this is a much better football team in 2025 than they were in 2024. We saw the growth on the offensive side of the ball. If we can get some things turned around on defense, take a couple steps forward offensively again this next season, could be looking at a pretty good team this time next year.
I agree.
But thank you for supporting the channel, JT. Really do appreciate it. All right, Jordan, let's roll right into probably what everybody came here to talk about, coaching changes, right? It's all that's been talked about on social media, on Clemson pages, on message boards, wherever you consume your college football content. This has been beat to death, if you will. Possible coaching changes coming to Clemson, South Carolina, right? Possible departure of one Wes Goodwin, defensive coordinator for the Clemson Tigers. Obviously, we were talking backstage before we came on today, and our thoughts are Wes Goodwin's probably gone, right? Has the official announcement been made as of now? No, I know there's some stuff circling around on Twitter right now, but still nothing officially from the University of Clemson about Wes Goodwin's future. But I think I feel pretty as certain as you could possibly be as just a fan in our perspective without any internal connections of the program, that Wes Goodwin is probably coached his last game as a Clemson defensive coordinator. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think that is about all you should feel confident in saying right now. I know everybody has their source. They're having a source off on Facebook and Twitter and the message boards. Everybody knows what's happening, what changes Dabo is about to make, who's coming in.
Everybody knows Dabo Sweeney's plumber, or his landscaper, or
Yeah, and you're all hearing different things. But I do think one thing I feel pretty certain about is Wes Goodwin will not be Clemson's defensive coordinator in 2025.
Yeah.
And that I don't believe that's the only staff change that'll be made. But beyond that, I think people need to be wary of where they're getting their information from. If you're just repeating message board rumors and all sorts of stuff, like it's very dubious, I think, to kind of operate off of that. I see people freaking out about Dabo making an internal hire, and Lorenzo Ward is going to be Clemson's defensive coordinator.
You see, didn't you hear?
Yeah. Just all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, I think people need to relax. January 6th is coming. That is when the staff meeting, the big staff meeting is coming. I don't believe you'll see anything official happen until after that takes place. But I do think people need to I do think people need to kind of pump the brakes on some of the running with some of the rumors that are out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously going to be a ton of rumors on Twitter. People are going to post, oh, this is official, or I heard this, or this is Clemson's next DC, or I mean, Clemson don't have a next DC because Wes Goodwin still hasn't been officially fired yet. Do we think he's going to be let go? Absolutely, I have no doubt about it. But to your point, Jordan, watch your sources. Make sure they're credible. If a guy plugged in like a David Hood posted, it's probably pretty credible. Or Jason Priester, who comes on this channel sometimes and does some content for us as well. Probably a pretty credible source there. So if those two guys say it, you could probably believe it. But some rando on Twitter, probably not.
Tiger fan 1, 2, 3, 4 that that knows every coach in the program.
Probably not the source that you should be trusting when it comes to these things. But I do think that Wes Goodwin will be let go as DC. I think David Hood did. They do an Orange Crush podcast over on the TNet channel on YouTube. So if you guys want to go check it out, go check that out. It's a good podcast. He didn't mince words when he said Wes Goodwin is no longer a part of the Clemson program as far as he understands it, right? Which is the writing's on the wall. He's going to be let go. It's just a matter of time, right? But if you look at how Dabo Swinney tends to make these changes when he does, look at the Brandon Streeter. Brandon Streeter got fired, and Garrett Riley got hired within like an hour of each other, like the two announcements. It was crazy. It happened right before we were coming on the air one time for this current show that we have, which was amazing for that show. But best believe that Dabo Swinney probably already knows who he wants. Does he have that person locked up yet? I don't know. But he tends to do these things very behind the scenes, and then it all comes to light at once. It's kind of how he operates and how he rolls. So I fully believe he has a plan. Do I think Lorenzo Ward's going to be the next DC at Clemson? No. Do I think he's going to make an internal hire? No. I think he's going to go outside of the program. I think he's going to go get somebody that he wants. And we'll find out when we're supposed to find out. There'll be speculation between now and then. Who's it going to be? I honestly have no idea who it's going to be. I have no clue. But I trust that Dabo will make the right hire.
Yeah, and more importantly, I think one thing that I've appreciated about this iteration of Clemson's administration is that they have been willing. They've nudged Dabo in in a certain direction at times in the past. The Brandon Streeter firing is a great example. Yeah. I think what Graham Neff has done. I don't think he gets a lot of credit, but one thing that he has done really, really well is that he hasn't just stepped in and been a yes man. He's been 100% behind Dabo, but he's also been vocal behind the scenes about and he's done a really good job at kind of nudging things in a more modern direction in terms of Clemson football and other athletic programs at Clemson. So I think there's going to be 100% going to be it's going to be an outside hire. I don't really have much worry about it being an internal hire. We'll find out when we find out. Yep. But I think, like I said, people need to be wary about where they are, gleaning their information from, and because everybody thinks they know somebody or know what's going on, but at the end of the day, it's an ongoing search, ongoing situation. Like you have to, things are changing by the day, by the hour.
Yeah, I mean, and look, there's a lot of stuff going on within the program, right? We just went through probably a week straight where probably Dabo's full focus was, let me retain my roster, right? Let me get these guys shirt up. Let me get these guys paid. Let me get these guys locked back in for another year. Now that that's over, he's probably turned his his attention to focusing on coaching staff changes, right? Not that he wasn't working with it simultaneously, but the main focus was retaining the roster. Now that that's locked up, now that coaching search will probably get more and more aggressive. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see who it is. There's a lot of questions by Clemson fans, right? When's the announcement of Wes Goodwin being fired going to happen? Who's going to be the next DC? What other coaching changes could possibly happen? There's a lot of names being thrown out there for possible targets that Clemson may target. But like you said, the staff comes back on the 6th. They got the football banquet on the 11th. The players come back like a couple days out, I think like the 7th or 8th. The players are back in town. So a lot of moving pieces, but I believe that Dabo Swinney will hire a experienced defensive coordinator to take over for the Clemson Tigers. Who it's going to be, honestly, I have no idea. I don't know if you have any wish candidates out there, Jordan, that you want to share. But
I have a couple.
I don't know who he's going to go after. But who would you like to see him pursue? If you had you were CEO of Clemson for the day, and you could pull out a defensive coordinator that's realistic for Clemson. Obviously, you can't go get everybody. But who would you like to see Clemson target?
I think Clemson should go get Kirby Smart. No,
that'd be great. I would fully support that hire. Kirby Smart, book it here, clip this. Kirby Smart's coming to Clemson to be the DC. I'm 100%. Sure social media will love that.
It would be that would be great. But no, I think a guy I've always liked. If you could go get Phil Parker, I think Phil Parker might be my dream defensive coordinator. I know he's old, he's older. I don't think he would be around much longer. But he's just been entrenched at Iowa. But Phil Parker has had phenomenal top 5, top 10 defenses with a horrendous offense for most of his time. I think and he's done it every single year at a consistent rate without 5-star, talent to work with. I think Phil Parker is the best defensive coordinator in college football right now. I think a guy like a guy that's currently in the NFL, Jim Leonard, who was he was at Wisconsin for a good bit. I think that would be a phenomenal hire. I think you want to. I like guys that have fielded consistently strong defenses at places that don't have a ton of talent, but at the Power 4 level. I think those are the very obvious guys. Jim Knowles did it at Oklahoma State, and then before he went to Ohio State, that would be he was that type of guy. And you've seen what Ohio State's defense has done.
It's amazing
during his tenure, the turnaround that they've made.
Look at them tonight against Oregon. They've been absolutely just. I mean,
how many sacks did they end up with? They had 6 when I was watching at one point. I don't know if they.
I don't know what their final sack total was,
but they were phenomenal.
They were confusing Dalen Gabriel. They were getting pressure with just the front guys.
I would love to have a guy like Jim Knowles, but
and just a couple of years at Ohio State too. I mean, remember the Ohio State defense before he got there?
Sheesh, man. They were rough.
They were bad. They were downright bad.
After Ryan Day had that 2019 his first year, that defense was phenomenal, and then they were god awful from 20 to 22 basically, and then they the hire of Jim Knowles was a game changer, and it took it took a season or two.
Yeah,
they weren't they improved each year, but they didn't. But this year they've been
lights out. They ended up with 8 sacks and 13 tackles for loss tonight.
Yeah, that'll do in a playoff game against that Oregon offense. Yeah,
against that offense. That'll get the job done.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we'll see what direction. Like those would be the high premium names. But we'll kind of see, how this continues to play out. But I agree with you. I think Dabo is, I think similar to the Brandon Streeter hire or firing, it was a realization that, okay, well, I tried to give, my guy a shot.
Yeah,
but
he just wasn't ready.
Yep, he wasn't ready. It was a mistake. And honestly, I think Wes Goodwin was even more of an unconventional and unnecessary experiment than even Brandon Streeter was, because Brandon Streeter had at least coordinated offenses before, not at a school like Clemson, but he had been an offensive coordinator in other places. He had been in the program a long time. He was a quarterback coach. Like, he knows, he's been in coaching. Wes Goodwin, he was an assistant to the head coach in the NFL for a year, and he was a GA, and that was it. He's no coaching experience whatsoever, and I think it truly sets you back unnecessarily, I think, in a lot of ways. So I think the MO for Dabo this time around is going to get somebody that has proven it and has done it at a high level.
No doubt about it. And ultimately, like I said, who that ends up being, I don't know, but I truly do feel that it will be somebody that is very experienced with play calling and with running defenses. And I think that's important at a place like Clemson. You don't have to settle for experimental coaches, especially at the coordinator level.
Yeah.
You should have a very experienced guy that knows what he's doing, and I fully expect that's what Dabo is going to do. So I'm excited to hear who it is, and I'm excited to see what they can do, because, look, you get an experienced, elite level defensive coordinator in here. I mean, they got the talent is on the roster to get back to that top 10 level defense that Clemson is so used to being at, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, right? So I'm excited to see the change made there. Will that be the only change? Probably not. But what other coaches are let go or switched out? Strength and conditioning is probably a place of question right now. I don't know. I don't know what else he's going to do, but I do know that changes will be made. Definitely the defensive coordinator, and we'll see what else goes after that.
Absolutely, and we'll be here to talk about it. What day is the 6th? What, today is Wednesday, so Monday.
Is Monday.
Monday. So
Monday. So Monday. Maybe we'll hear something Monday, but probably sometime next week.
Yeah,
for sure. At least officially on that coaching change. At least letting Wes Goodwin go. Will the new DC be hired by then? I'm not sure. I guess it depends on who he's going after.
Yep.
Is he going after somebody still coaching right now? I don't know. We'll see.
He might be.
He was last time when he hired an OC.
Yeah, he was.
Until the national championship was over to announce. But we'll see. We shall see. And make sure you guys are checking Clemson Live on all your favorite podcast, audio streaming platforms, wherever you get your podcast. Go check us out. Search Clemson Live. Give us a rate, review, and subscribe over there. We would really appreciate it. All right, Jordan, last segment of the night. We're going to end with Around College Football. We're going to talk some of these college football playoff games, since that's what's been going on the past couple days, I guess. Obviously, earlier today, we had Texas and Arizona State. Andrew Makuba with the game-sealing interception there at the end. Beautiful interception by Andrew Makuba. It's good. It's exciting and painful to watch him excel and at such a high level in Texas, or with a Texas uniform on, and to not see him in that Clemson orange. But I'm happy for him. I'm glad he's out there balling. He's going to go make himself a lot of money in the NFL next year. So shout out to him. But talk about Arizona State, man. It looked bad early. It looked like it was going to get out of hand very quickly, and kind of did there for a little bit. But Arizona State battled back. Scattaboo out there just willing his team to victory, or trying to will his team to victory.
Did you see his stat line for this game, man? It was ridiculous,
sick, man. That dude
he had
sick.
A passing touchdown. He had a receiving touchdown. He had over 100. Hold on, I gotta read it out because it is nuts. Let me see if I can. Yeah, he had 42 passing yards, 143 rushing yards, 99 receiving yards, and a passing touchdown and 2 rushing touchdowns. That is.
I don't even know what to say about that.
That is crazy stuff, man.
That's absolutely insane. That's the definition of an MVP right there.
And that was after vomiting on the sideline.
Right. Yeah. Just leaving everything on the field, obviously.
Literally.
Luckily, they battled back and made it an exciting game. I thought they were going to pull it out there for a minute, but 2 overtimes, and ultimately that Texas offense was just a little too much in the end. And the Arizona State offense couldn't quite do enough. So
it's crazy.
Texas pulls it out. Crazy game.
Because they outgained Texas by 150 yards or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, they did. They outplayed them for a good portion of that game. But the stat line that they threw up on the screen that kind of made you a little nauseous if you were a Clemson fan was that 292 yards of rushing yards that we gave up against the Texas Longhorns versus their 50 yards or something that they gave up. Just absolutely gut-wrenching to see that stat up there on the board when you see these other defenses that, from a talent standpoint, aren't any better than you, but somehow they can execute just at a much higher level. So, it was a fun game to watch, though, regardless. So, at least it wasn't a big blowout like the Ohio State and Oregon game ended up being. I mean, Ohio State ended up with I think almost 400 yards of total offense in that first half. They were just hitting explosive play after explosive play. I was like, man, it got ugly in a hurry. And the Oregon offense looked, until that last drive of the first half, I mean, they didn't do anything. They could not do anything. Dylan Gabriel looked confused. He looked out of sync. He didn't know what he was seeing. Kept getting pressure. It looked about as dominating as it could, specifically in that first half, and then they just carried it through the rest of the game, really.
Yeah, it was something to behold. I mean, it was 31-0 before you even blinked. It was, that I felt bad, but I was like, man, they're just flat out outdoing them. Like Jeremiah Smith is a freak. Like he's a special talent. Like he would get first round consideration if he left for the draft, if he was allowed to this year. Like that's how good he is. He's special. But Will Howard has really upped his game this just the past couple of games. Like he was incredible against Tennessee. He was really, really good today. He was like, it wasn't even just like, Jeremiah Smith is good, but Will Howard, I put the two together.
Yeah.
Big Willie style. But I think he really, he threw some really, really just NFL type throws in this game. And so I mean, this version of Ohio State, I don't think is losing to anybody. If this is the Ohio State we get each week of the playoff, I don't know if there's a team that's beating them. But we'll see. Let the performance come next round. But
ever since that Michigan loss, they have looked completely unstoppable on offense, and their defense is feasting. Their defense is feasting. We talked about it. So they look like a very tough team to beat. I would not want to be a team looking to play Ohio State right now.
Texas is about to find out.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if Texas with how Ohio State's playing. I don't know if Texas has got enough to hang with them, but we'll see.
Yes, we will. Am I gone? Oh, brother. Can anybody hear me? Anybody in the chat, put a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay. All right. It's not me this time. Wow. All right. That is phenomenal. But no, Ohio State is, yeah, they're on a tear while Tiger Paul Craven gets back in here. And then the playoff game, last night, Boise State, Penn State.
Can you hear me?
Yep. I can hear you loud and clear. I thought it was me for a second. I was.
No, I guess it was me. My screen just went black. Like
your screen is black on my. Did you turn your camera on?
Yeah, I got it on now.
You are a black screen on my. I don't know if that's just me. Lord have mercy.
I don't know.
First show of the year when we got technical difficulties.
Starting off the new year with a bang. Screen goes black. Technical difficulties everywhere. But I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, brother. Yeah, I don't. Okay, the people in the chat are saying that your screen is black too. So I don't know what that's about.
I don't know.
Is it the privacy slide? I don't know. I mean, I don't know why you didn't have it on before, so I wouldn't know how it would. I don't know.
I do not know. Hold on, I'll be right back.
All right. But yeah, I thought in that Penn State game, it felt like Penn State kind of messed around. Like early, it looked like it was going to get ugly. I don't know what they were doing offensively. I felt like they could have just ran the ball like 40 times and got out of there with a win, but they tried to get cute at different points in the game, and I think Boise State did a good job of taking advantage of those opportunities. And Ashton Jeanty. People were dunking on him on social media because he didn't have 150 200 plus yards, but if you knew what you were watching in that football game, Ashton Jeanty was the reason that Boise State had any semblance of an offense, especially in the passing game. Like Penn State was dedicating so much to the run that they actually had, like, Boise State actually had somewhat of a passing game because Boise State's receivers are not special. Their quarterback isn't. I mean, he's been solid this year, but he's not anything to write home about. But they still were able to create some plays in the passing game because they dedicated so much to Ashton Jeanty, and that was. I think people don't realize that, and they're like, man, people were like, yeah, I'm glad he didn't win the Heisman, which it's funny that they're using that narrative like they didn't just see Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter get beat to death essentially on national TV by BYU. Like, sometimes it takes more than one guy for a team to play well. And, Ashton Jeanty he wasn't going to be able to carry that offense. I don't know what people expected of him. I think people are trying to say that his season was invalidated because it was against group of 5 teams. Like I can't get down with that, man. Like Ashton Jeanty is a special running back prospect, and I expect him to be one of the few potential first round picks at running back that we see nowadays. He's legit, like a legit NFL elite running back prospect. What he does and not just what he does as a runner, but he is a phenomenal receiver. He's a really good pass protector. He's about as complete of a running back there's going to be, and so that's my Ashton Genty praise for the day. But like I think Boise State was just flat out outmatched, outduted by Penn State, and there's only so much you can do. You're just as a running back, like you can't.
Yeah,
there's nothing you can do when you're running into a defensive line that is as that can run a 4.6, and linebackers that are running 4.5, 4.4s, and like there's nothing you can do about that. And your offensive line is getting absolutely demolished at the point of attack. Like,
what do you want him to do?
You do break 11 tackles and score a touch. Like that's not how
he's supposed to run the ball, catch the ball, block for himself.
Yeah.
He's supposed to do it all, right? Just because he was a Heisman Trophy candidate, right? I mean, come on, look at the dude's numbers. I don't care where you put those numbers up at. They're special. So I don't think anything about his performance invalidated his season at all. It was clear that Penn State was physically far superior than anybody on Boise State's roster. You shouldn't have needed the game to be played to know that. Like, did you really think that Penn State wouldn't dominate the line of scrimmages of that game? They should have. Look at their athletes compared to what they have at Boise State. And I'm not taking a shot at Boise State at all. They're a really good team. But what's the biggest difference that everybody talks about from these lower level teams to these elite level college football teams, right? It's the line of scrimmage every single time. And that was on full display during that Penn State Boise State game. So I don't think it was surprising at all that he struggled to get yardage, right? He can't block for himself. It is what it is. He still had the best season of any running back in I don't know how long. So,
yep, 100%.
But yeah, more blowouts in the college football playoff. I guess that means we should go back to the BCS. That's what I hear people arguing for online. I don't know why. Blowouts are a part of college football, period. Regardless of what era of college football you go to. It's not the NFL, right? The talent discrepancy within teams are vast. So there's going to be blowouts. There's always going to be blowouts. Get over it. It is what it is. I'm enjoying the games. I love watching college football. I was not a proponent of increasing to 12 teams, but I'm also not going to complain about watching more college football games in January. So
yeah, I mean, and
I think both things can be true, right? Like I can be like, I didn't want the playoffs to go to 12, but also be like, well, I mean, I'm going to enjoy the college football games now that they're here and they're going to be played, right?
Yep. I mean, and unless you're a South Carolina fan, and of course you'd rather lose the Cheez-It Bowl than make the playoff. Like, sorry, I had to get the dig in there.
No, that was good. I like it. I like it. Yeah, all those teams crying about not getting into the playoffs all got beat by lesser teams, if you will.
Funny how that works.
Weird.
Ole Miss, you're on the clock.
I guess they didn't belong either because, if you lose, you didn't belong. So, college football or people on the internet logic, I guess we can call it. If you lose, you didn't belong. So, I guess Alabama didn't belong in their bowl game, and neither did South Carolina. We'll see if Ole Miss belongs in their bowl game. They play Duke tomorrow, right? They play tomorrow? Ole Miss and Duke?
I believe so, yes.
Maybe the ACC can get their third win of the bowl season.
Yeah, that's
what are we doing 9 right now? Good Lord. ACC out here just making the case easy for everybody to talk crap about us.
Okay, I think let me just make sure these reports are correct. There's a lot of I just checked Twitter, and there's a lot of people talking about that. Okay, TigerNet, David Hood. I didn't plan on doing an update this late, but I felt all the rumors floating around demanded it. Like I said on the podcast yesterday, I understand that Wes Goodwin has moved on. People, hold on. reports in Oklahoma. It sounds like he is in line for a job with Brent. Now the other stuff, I see where people are posting about it. See where people are posting about Mickey Conn and possibly Mike Reed moving on, about Joey Batson retiring, blah, 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 and CJ Spiller moving into an off-the-field role. Has that happened? I do believe all of that is on the table, but there might be more. Not saying burn the whole thing down, but Sweeney is determined to right the ship after what I understand was a very volatile meeting with the defensive staff after the Texas game. Right now, I would categorize this as on the table, but there are other considerations and some moving parts. Perhaps there are coaches still coaching elsewhere. Yes, today was New Year's, but we still have Duke and Ole Miss in the Gator Bowl. It's still just January 1st, and as I posted earlier this week, Sweeney has been focused on roster retention. And on that note, they are working on getting something done for Blake Miller, and I believe that is close to happening. Patience is the key here, and trust me when I say there are a lot of things in the works that have to play out. Rumors abound, and everyone has the inside word, etc., but we still have to let this happen. Okay. Update from David Hood, basically echoing what he said on his podcast.
Yeah.
Wes Goodwin is moving on.
Yeah.
So people are saying like he's officially fired, or like, and I don't know about all that.
Yeah, I don't think it's been officially, stated by anyone involved with the university, but
right.
We obviously all know that Wes Goodwin will no longer be the DC at Clemson. So, and it sounds like he probably won't be the only change. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, right? And I believe Dabo is looking to get this Clemson program back to where they used to be, and to do that, sometimes you got to make some uncomfortable changes, and Wes Goodwin might not be the only change. We'll see. I mentioned strength and conditioning, and I know Batson's been there a long time, and he was there through the national championship runs and all that stuff. But when your defense is constantly gassed on the field, and can't physically perform, you got to start looking at stuff. There's got to be reasons, and people have to be held accountable. So,
I mean, and
now is accountability time.
And you took and you have to think. I mean, Clemson recently, made a change with their nutrition staff and program. I mean, yeah. I think it only makes sense to get a new, fresh, fresh philosophy in terms of strength and conditioning, and I think a change would be overdue here. So I think that is certainly on the table. We'll see what direction that ends up going. But like I said, all of this is like basically what David Hood said. All of this stuff is still in the process of happening. So you have to let these things play out. And
I wouldn't be surprised if Dabo's targeting people that are still currently coaching. It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. I don't know who he's targeting. I'm sure he knows. I'm sure he's had a plan for a little while now. I mean, we talked about it on this show. Some of the writing on the walls and some of those post-game interviews was very telling, especially towards the back end of the season when it came to questions about Clemson's defense. Dabo didn't mince words a couple times when it came to some poor play and poor coaching decisions, if you will.
Yeah, and it's been a recurring thing all year. I mean, behind the scenes, like he's been critical of Wes, in reading between the lines, like during interviews. Behind the scenes, he's blasted. It's Wes has gotten the brunt of his ire, and on the sideline during game day, you saw it. Like there was no way this was going to end in Wes Goodwin coming back and as your defensive coordinator next year. John mentions Batson having health issues. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. It does seem like that is going to be a major factor in his decision to move on and potentially retire. That certainly plays a huge role. So I think you're going to see some big time changes. I do think that's I don't think Wes Goodwin is the only change that you see on the defensive coaching staff.
No.
But you have to let these things play out. I think Dabo was still kind of mulling ultimately what he's going to do as far as the structure of this staff and defense, and of course that includes hiring a new defensive coordinator. So
yeah, I'd like to see a real special teams coordinator hired too.
Yes, that would be nice. That would be nice. I don't know of any. I'm not well versed in special team coordinators. I mean, I know a couple names, but get somebody.
There's other teams out there that have really good special teams coordinators, and I believe Clemson needs one. They got to go find themselves one that just does that. But yeah, lots of changes to come. I would assume for the Clemson Tiger team, specifically on that defensive side of the ball. John mentions the linebacker position. Yes, that has been an underperforming position group the past couple years, as has the defensive tackle group, as has the edge group. So, I mean, there's a lot of position groups there that have underperformed. So, will changes be made at every single? Probably not, right? Like, obviously Chris Frump just took over. He had his first season as being the edge guy. So, I don't see any change happening there. But obviously there's going to be a change at the linebacker coach because that was Wes Goodwin. And with the talent that you have at linebacker and how much they have regressed over 2 seasons, that's probably another big reason that Dabo's ultimately going to make that change.
100%.
I hope Reed isn't going too as well, Isaac. I don't want to see Mike Reed going. But again, we don't know. Look, I mean, who knows who's going to be targeted as DC? Are they going to want to bring in some of their own guys? Like, who knows what it's going to look like?
It's all still happening, in real time. So, there's no final decisions that has not been made yet. So we'll see. All right.
All right. I think that'll do it for the planned portion of the show, Jordan.
Yep.
Go ahead and kick it to the comment section and see what the people are talking about. We still got 71 people in the live chat right now. Thank you guys so much for being here. Appreciate each and every one of you. Hit that like button while you're in here. It really helps us out. And I'll let you go ahead with this super chat.
Yes. Thank you, Hamp, for the $5. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the show. He says college football will never be the same. JT is right, but we need some coaches more like the manner of offensive line coaches with experience. Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, the hires that Dabo made after the 2021 season to replace his 2 coordinators, both have been failures. And the Wes Goodwin experiment was egregious in terms of how unnecessarily risky it was.
Yeah,
you're at 2021 was not a great year by any means by Clemson standards under Dabo, but you were at that point, you were still at the top, considered one of the top programs in college football. You were still bringing in top 10 recruiting classes. And you had a really great crop of young talent that was on the roster. I mean, you think of the guys that you had, coming into that 2022 season, Brian Bresee, Miles Murphy, Trenton Simpson, freshman Nate Wiggins. You still had, I can go through the list. Tyler Davis, Xavier Thomas, like KJ Henry. Like you had all these. You had a litany of talent. Andrew Booth. Like you had actually not Andrew Booth. He was gone. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like you had a really good crop of young talent heading into that 2022 season, and you had an opportunity to get a really high caliber defensive coordinator to replace Brent Venables, and you go with the graduate assistant that has never coordinated a defense at any level before, never coached. Never called plays, hasn't even coached been in charge of a position room at any point in his career to take that jump and be the guy. At a place, if you were at like Furman, okay, you can get away with stuff like that. Like they're at Clemson, where you've been to you've been to 6 college football playoffs at that point in time, and you won 2 national championships, and you're considered at worst a top 3, top 4 program in the sport. Yeah. Like that was the opportunity to have the continuity and bring another high level guy in, but instead the vision of being a in-house family type of program blinded you into making a decision and putting a guy in a position that he was not ready for. And I gave Wes a lot of credit for the improvements he made last season. I don't regret that. Like I think he did do better in 2023 than his first season. There were some things that were shored up. Pass defense specifically was much better last year. But the fact that the hire was made in the first place is the problem, and the fact that after last season you gave him such a huge pay raise and extension, I think those were 2 just backbreaking mistakes. And now you're at the point where, well, if you get the situation where Wes moves on and you don't have to fire him and you don't have to pay him, that works out. But it puts you in an uncomfortable situation that you just didn't need to be in. And quite frankly, the defensive talent that you had over these last few seasons has been squandered. And some guys did not develop the way that they could have otherwise. And you didn't get the quality of defenses that you could have had otherwise. And that's an indictment on having a defensive coordinator that was not ready to be what you needed him to be. And
especially at his position group. Yeah. You got a guy like Barrett Carter. He's gotten worse. Each of the last 2 seasons, he's gotten worse.
Yep.
That,
happened with Trenton Simpson. How good he was in 2021. Yeah. Led the team in sacks, was phenomenal at the Sam linebacker position. You move him inside, and he does in 2022. He doesn't know what he's doing. His draft grade plummets. He's a 4th round pick. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. came out okay, but he was a really smart football player, and he was just limited in terms of measurables. So he was never going to be a guy that got drafted super high.
Right.
But Barrett Carter, I don't think people remember how good Barrett Carter was in especially his sophomore year. Like 2022 Barrett Carter.
Lights out, man. Dude. Like an animal.
And even last season, he was much better than he was this year. And so it just that's a level of talent that you need to have a guy in place that can get the most out of him. And you did not do that. And you couple that with the games this season, the questionable personnel decisions, the lack of adjustments, the inexcusable just performances at times this year. It just that shouldn't have happened.
Look,
the level of talent you had on this defense.
Right. It never should have happened. And to your point of, the experience piece and Hamp's point here is like, look, Clemson's not the program where you get your first opportunity to call plays at. It should, like, we should be hiring only experienced coordinators at Clemson. When you're to the level that this program was at, you don't go hire first-time play callers. You just don't. And I know, taking a flyer on a guy here and there, but I think at the coordinator level, that's just not what you should be doing, right? You need that experience from the guy at the helm that's running everything. So that's what I fully expect Dabo to go do now, is go find somebody with a lot of experience that's going to try to right the ship on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. And like, I think one of the things that just made it so difficult, people are going to point out, like, hey, you did it with Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott. But first of all, I mean, Clemson was in a different space as a program then. Like, they were not at the level and the stature that they ended up becoming.
Right.
And second, you still had a really experienced and proven guy on the other side of the football running things. And the guys you did promote were guys that you had groomed to be that. Like, they had been in the program for years. Like, Wes Goodwin was at Clemson for a couple
2 years?
2 years?
Something
like that.
Yeah.
Like, at two, like, in
he
total, I think
he wasn't groomed by Brent Venables to take over when he leaves.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case. And yeah, to your point, Clemson was at a different point when they hired Tony Elliott as the offensive coordinator. And also Tony Elliott was stepping in to run a version of the Clemson offense that was already being run. Yes, it was his version, and yes, he tweaked things, and yes, he changed things, but he was essentially running a version of the Chad Morris system that he brought to Clemson. So I think that's a little bit different. And I just don't think Clemson's a program where we have to go hire inexperienced coaches. We don't. We can pretty much go out and get, within reason, pretty much whoever we want. The administration's never had a problem paying coaches. We've never had a problem retaining coaches. Dabo runs a pretty coach-friendly ship when it comes to, family time and prioritizing things, as well as, making sure people perform and get the job done. So a little bit of a balance there. Coaches seem to like to work for him. So, if that's not a problem, then why are we – I'm not saying you never give anybody an opportunity, but I don't think you do at the coordinator level with where Clemson is at currently. Like, you don't need to go take a flyer, especially at the coordinator position. If you want to give a young guy an opportunity at a position group, maybe that may be one thing. But at the coordinator level, I think, I hope we're done with these experiments of people that have never called plays before. Becoming the leaders of their side of the ball.
Yeah, that was just completely silly.
Because a place like Dabo can go out and get relatively any name he wants right now at the defensive coordinator position.
He will have his share, his crop of options. That's for sure. Like, there won't be like. And that's what makes it so disappointing, because in that 2021 offseason, Dabo was reached out to, probably by some names that we probably know today.
Probably.
And
we didn't get any of them.
I didn't give it. He didn't give it any thought. Well, he gave it for like what did he say when he talked about hiring Brandon Streeter?
I don't know.
And Wes Goodwin, he was like, I sat at my desk and for like 5 minutes, and I knew what I was going to do.
I believe him, but he made the wrong call.
Yeah. But I think he realizes that, and
absolutely. Look, it's nobody's ever going to be perfect, right? Nobody ever makes the right call 100% of the time. I think the important thing is that he's willing to change, and he's willing to correct the mistakes that were made by getting rid of the coaches that aren't pulling their weight. There's got to be accountability for your position group, for your job. And as far as Wes Goodwin goes, I'm not speaking on him as a man or a person. I'm sure he's great, but he's just not getting the job done at Clemson. So got to move on.
Yep.
That's just the name of the game. You're not getting the results. When you drop into the hundreds in defensive statistical categories on a defense that has been near the top 10 in a bunch of categories for the better half of a decade, that can't happen.
No.
There's got to be a change. So I'm excited to see who the next DC is. And it better be somebody that's experienced. And I'm sure that it will be.
Yeah. Moving on. Thank you, Koozie, boy. $5. Thank you so much for supporting the show. He says, "Give me Muschamp." Yeah, I don't think that's. I mean, if it made sense, if it made sense for Clemson, like I would be all for Will Muschamp as defensive coordinator. Like he's a phenomenal coordinator, but he would not mesh well here.
No.
Him and Dabo do not. That they're very different personalities. I don't know if that would not mesh well, and there was not. There was some tension while he was the head coach at South Carolina. That's for sure. It was not the relationship that Dabo had with Steve Spurrier or even Shane Beamer. Like it was much more cordial.
And even him and Spurrier had their moments.
Yeah,
which were entertaining.
They were entertaining, but they were friends at the end of the day.
They were friends at the end of the day.
That was not the case with Dabo or Muschamp, and Muschamp specifically did not care for Dabo, from what I've been told. So I doubt he would go and leave his alma mater, even in an analyst role, to go coach.
Brent and Dabo were different personalities, but they worked very well together.
Yeah, they were different personalities, but they had very similar beliefs, and they saw eye to eye on a lot of things. Like
I think philosophies and running a program and how things should be structured and done, they saw eye to eye on most of that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously different personalities.
Yeah, I'm not even talking I'm not even saying like, oh man, Muschamp was fired up and he was a fiery coach and coordinator. Like that's what I want. Like that's the part of Will Muschamp that I would want. Like if Will Muschamp was Clemson's defensive coordinator, I would not have to worry about our players playing soft. They would be well coached. They would know what they were supposed to do. Like Will Muschamp has been a high level defensive coach for a very long time. Would not be worried about that. But in terms of seeing eye to eye on program philosophy and roster decisions and all of that and just them meshing together as people,
right?
Just I don't think it would work. So I don't. If you could remove all that stuff and just give me Will Muschamp, the defensive coordinator that just coaches ball, and remove all the extra stuff, I'd be all for it, because Will Muschamp is one of the best defensive minds in the sport. But they would not. He would not work well with Dabo. I feel pretty confident in saying that.
Definitely not. I don't see that relationship ever working.
Yeah. All right. Okay. That's all the super chats for now. Let's see what you guys are talking about in the chat. Isaac says, got to be real concerned at the linebacker position. Who do we have outside of Sammy and Wade? Those guys don't got a lot of playing time. I totally agree. I do think that's something that to be monitored. I think. Yeah. I think Clemson is surveying their options, and they have some young pieces that could potentially develop. But right now, you just have a whole lot of bodies that have not given you much. I mean, you get Kobe McLeod back from injury, towards ACL at the beginning of the season. But I don't think he's a high-level guy, but he certainly be, good to have a guy that's played some snaps. But, the D. Craytons of the world, the Jamal Andersons, they didn't take the step this year that maybe you hoped they would.
Right.
C.J. Kuba-Taylor is a guy I'm excited for, but he, redshirt guy. Is he going to take a step? He hasn't been playing he didn't, when he was signed, he hadn't been playing linebacker very long, or football in general for very long. Drew Woodaz, you don't have a whole, there's not a whole lot of like proven commodities and guys that you just know are going to be able to take that jump. I do. It's ultimately, if you don't go get a portal linebacker, a linebacker from the portal, it better be because, you have some guys step up there. Whether it is like a D. Crayton takes a step, or Jamal Anderson is the guy I think of anybody in the linebacker room needs to take the biggest jump this year, because it does not make sense to me why he's not where he should be. Well, it does make sense to me knowing who this is.
We just got finished talking about why.
we just got finished talking about why. That's right. But it's imperative that he takes that jump. I think he is right now. I think he is the key, the most important player in that room in terms of
and I mean
whether or not Clemson will be okay at that position.
And it may be a situation where Clemson holds pat with what they got right now and goes into spring practice and waits till that April portal window to see what they have.
They could.
And then maybe, maybe then they're like, okay, we like what we have or we don't, and we got to go get somebody. Not saying that that's what will happen, but I could see them kind of staying pat with what they have, seeing how those guys, do they take a jump come spring practice? Obviously, the new DC is going to have something to say about it, on whether he's happy with where the roster is and different position groups and stuff like that. So, obviously that person, whoever it ends up being, will have an opinion about whether Clemson needs to go into the portal. And I'm sure if they feel that they do, then Dabo will go in the portal and get whoever they need to get.
Yeah,
but it's definitely that position group is definitely a point of concern for Clemson heading into next season. It's the depth is a problem because you got nobody with any sort of experience outside of Wade Woodaz and Sammy Brown. That's all you got with any sort of real experience playing actual meaningful snaps of football.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think Kobe McLeod would be ready. They thought he was ready to contribute in a big way this year before he tore his ACL. So you would assume maybe he's that third guy, but you need more than that.
Yeah, definitely. Trevor said one thing that shocked me was Carter said that Sammy came in and was the strongest in the room as a freshman. Yeah, I mean, Sammy Brown is a freak. So, like, I will bring that caveat, but
that's not good.
It didn't sound very good. No.
Right. Yeah.
And, and you think back to last season's opener against Duke when Barrett Carter came out and said, I didn't feel like I was in game shape. Like I didn't feel like, that not necessarily an indictment on Wes, more so, conditioning, strength and conditioning potentially. But there were some red flags throughout, Wes Goodwin's tenure that I was willing to ignore because of the improvements last year, but this season was just unacceptable. So
really bad. Really bad.
Yeah.
And it's like, as crazy it is when you think about the talent that was there this year at linebacker. That might have been the worst position group on the defense.
Yeah, I think easily. Well, if defensive end didn't have TJ Parker and Peter Woods playing there,
I mean,
for most of the year,
with the experienced guys that you had at linebacker, and with the poor tackling, the poor angles, bad run fits, can't cover a wheel route to save their life. Like, I mean, it's just like it's hard to find a positive out of that group. And they're good players. They got the physical capabilities, and we've seen them perform better. Wade Woodaz this year, he looked slower. I don't know if, I know he put on some weight in the offseason to get bigger and stronger to play inside. I don't know if that served him well. He was better at a lighter weight. But like I said, like we said before, every linebacker has regressed.
Yeah.
So that's
not
hopefully
good,
we
man.
can get that turned around.
Yeah. Els King says it was dumb of Dabo to do experiments like this. I don't want to call it. I don't want to call it dumb. I think it was certainly not the right decision in retrospect.
Yeah,
and certainly there were a lot of vocal critics when the hire happened. But I don't want to call Dabo dumb for believing in a guy that he was, because I 100% believe that he felt that Wes Goodwin was ready to take the job, and he was wrong. That was it was a flat out miss. But definitely, it was not. It certainly was just not a decision that needed to be made when you had the options that in the routes you could have taken.
Right, you're Clemson. You could go get anyone.
Yeah. And because, and I don't want to call it dumb either, because he had the experience of his internal hires working out for him, and so there was a proof of concept there. So and I think that's why people didn't make as much of a stink of it when it happened. There were certainly a lot of people that were like, "What? Why?" But it wasn't like, "Oh my God, Dabo's making a grave mistake." I didn't see too many of that. There were some people that were like, "This is a grave mistake, and we're going to pay for this." But others were just kind of like, "Okay, this is not what I would have done, but I'm gonna trust Dabo, and we're going to see what happens."
Right.
I was in that camp, and it didn't work.
Didn't work.
So I'll defend Dabo because he did have a proof of concept there, and when you have won 2 national titles and you have seen your philosophy work for you, I understand why sticking with it felt like the best thing to do.
But at least we're making a change now.
Yeah.
I will say one thing is as critical as maybe a faction of the fan base was when those hires were made for Wes Goodwin and Brandon Streeter. He didn't just, bury his head in the sand and be like, nope, I'm sticking with Brandon Streeter. I'm sticking with Wes Goodwin. When the writing was on the wall that it wasn't going in a positive direction and they weren't going to be able to right the ship, he cut sling low on both of them. So, that's got to count for something.
Yeah.
Did he make the wrong call? Yeah. But,
grateful that he was not so buried in his hubris and pride that he just wasn't willing to he's like, I'm going to make, I'm going to make this work instead of
riding this until the wheels fall off. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Changes are being made. So let's see who the next man in charge is.
Yeah. Intelligent Savage, he says special teams need to really be addressed. Block kicks and 30-yard punts must be fixed moving forward. Yeah, 100%.
1,000%, dude.
Yeah. Clemson is, in terms of punting, I do believe Clemson is monitoring some options in the portal at punter.
Yeah, all we got is Jack Smith, who's been on the roster for 3 years. And has he ever punted in a game?
I think he did at the end of the NC State, or he punted in one of our blowout games, I believe. At one time.
But there's a reason he's been on the roster for 3 years behind Aiden Swanson,
and hasn't gotten an opportunity.
Hasn't surpassed him. So that doesn't give me a lot of warm and fuzzy feelings about the punting game going forward.
And
downright terrible this year. And I know 1,000% agree that we should go find a punter somewhere.
And I know some people that have been at practice. I'm gonna leave it at that.
He didn't start over Aiden Swanson. That's all that needs to be said.
There was a reason for that,
and it wasn't because the coaches like Aiden Swanson better.
Yeah.
So that should tell you everything you need to know after watching Clemson special teams this year. And then, to your point, the block kicks, like the downright just failure when it comes to protection. That's got to be addressed. Like I said, I would love to see Clemson go out and find a special teams coordinator, an actual special teams coordinator to take over special teams at Clemson. That's what I would like to see happen. Will it happen? I don't know, but that's what I would like to see happen.
Well, we'll see about that. I hope so.
Because our special teams is bad. Like it's really bad, dude.
Bottom of the country in all special teams metrics, like 100, like 120s, 30s,
and there's no reason for it. Yeah. There's literally no reason for that. I'm not saying we got to be, top 10 special teams, but like, can we just be mediocre at special teams?
Yeah, I'm not asking for like we're doing beamer ball all over,
right? Like creating all kind of crazy turnovers and flipping the game in special teams, but like, can we just be like average on special teams at least?
Not abysmal, like flat out costing us points, losing us games,
costing ourselves games on special teams, please.
Lord have mercy.
That'd be great if we could make that happen.
That'd be very great.
It's the only group that was worse than the defense this year.
Yeah, you're right, and that's
the only group that was worse than the rush defense this year was special teams.
Unbelievably bad, historically bad for even this coaching. I mean, even under Dabo, like special teams has never been great. But
no,
this was
never been great. But like this was like an all-time low year when it came to special teams. Yep. Like, if you would have asked coming into this year if our field goal kicking would have been worse, you'd have been like, no way. It was bad last year. Like, we had to go call my guy off the beach in Charleston when he was about to go up to New York and be on stocks and stuff like that. We called him in and was like, hey, please save us. And that special teams group was still better than this year's.
In terms of blocking, absolutely. Like,
they were better.
Like, it's not even close.
Not the kicker. I ain't saying anything about the actual kicker. Yeah. He's fine. I think he's going to turn out to be a really good kicker at Clemson. But he can't kick through people. You got to block for him. You got to give him a shot.
Yeah, 100%. And it's incredible just how poor it was. All right. Let's see. Let me try to get some more recent comments. I'm way behind.
Yeah, intelligent savage. Yeah, we had to back up the field goal an extra yard. Yeah. That tells you everything you need to know, man. Like,
and 100%.
When you're out here making field goals purposefully longer because you can't block, something's got to change.
Let's see. John Saring says, Makuba and Wiggins made mistakes, for example, but course corrected, and that took some coaching. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I haven't had too many complaints with your DB with Clemson's DB coaching.
No.
I do the rumors swirling about Mike Reed and Mickey Kahn, for that matter, we'll see what comes of that. But I don't think if the changes are made, it's because of their ability to coach their position. I'll say that. Gutter Rich with a really hard hitting question. I don't know either, man. He says, how do you have a scholarship for punting and still can't punt? Yeah.
Bro,
I don't know, man.
Don't even get me started.
I don't know. Jay mentions, where are the Aussies? Like, why didn't just go get one of those?
Yeah, just send somebody to fly out to Australia and go find one.
Yeah.
Every other team's got them. We don't. I don't know why. I think it's just because like our punting is so bad but like every time we play a team, I'm like, dang, their punter's really good. I think it's just because ours is so bad. Every punter looks good,
Yeah.
but it's
We
just
see a 45-yard punt, and we're like,
I'm like, dang,
oh my God, wow.
he punted the ball over 40 yards. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
We've been scarred.
Puzzling that you can be on scholarship for punting, but you average kicking the ball less than 40 yards a punt.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yep. Yeah, the Isaac Smith special teams has never been worse. It's legit laughable. Yeah, it is very comical how poor you were this year. Tiger Tom says, how big a loss is Williams for the D-line? How much do you think he would have played next season? I mean, I think he would have played a good bit. I mean,
it's a loss. Yeah, it's a significant loss.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he played like 300 snaps this year. He had a pretty good season for the Tigers. But
yeah,
I'm hoping that means,
especially with the departure of Peyton Page, he's out of he's out of eligibility.
I'm hoping that means K-Part's coming back.
Yeah, I hope so.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm just gonna positively read into it that he knows K-Part's coming back, so he's like, well, I better go get some playing time somewhere else.
Yeah,
I'm probably 1,000% wrong on that, but I'm gonna keep hoping until the announcement's made.
Yeah, Desperate says Makuba left probably because of coaching. Yeah, that was certainly part of it. Wiggins committed himself to getting. Yeah, he flat out said that.
There's no question about it. He said that in an interview. Now, he was still nice and very complimentary of Clemson, but he did say he felt that he wasn't being developed.
Yeah,
he did say that.
Wiggins committed himself to getting better, and he did, and he probably was coached up better as well. Players have to own it as well. Yeah, I mean, and there is personal responsibility on the players. Don't ever when we talk about these coaching changes and the failures of the coaches. Yeah, that doesn't mean that the players are just 100% without blame. But
right.
Ultimately, the coaches are the ones being paid all. Well, the players are getting paid a lot too now, but the coaches ultimately are responsible and the ones that are paid to get the players ready. And you've had some failures on that front.
Right.
Yeah, Intelligent Savage, is it true on the winning field goal against SMU, we had to back up an extra yard to get the kickoff? If so, special teams coaches really need it. Yeah, that's true.
Very true.
That's why it should have been a 55-yarder, but because you moved it back a yard, it was ended up being a 56-yarder.
Yeah.
So that's how bad you were.
And they still got pressure.
You had to make the field goal slightly harder on the kicker just to be able to get the kickoff.
Yeah, and they still got pressure on that kick.
Yep.
So
Nolan just drained it. Just good on him. Forever, that'll be one of that'll stick with me forever. That was insane.
Crazy, man.
Let's see. Let's do a couple more. Emmanuel says the more time passes by, the more I feel better about Antonio Williams coming back. The trio of Wesco, Moore, and Williams could be the very best trio next year. Yeah, I think I'm with you.
That's a take of a wide receiver room if we get Antonio Williams back.
Yeah, I don't you get Antonio Williams back. I don't think there's many. There's probably not 5 wide receiver rooms I'm taking over Clemson's next year. Yeah,
I mean, Williams, Wesco, Moore. Still got Tyler Brown there.
Cole Turner.
Everybody's forgotten about Tyler Brown.
Yeah.
He's still there.
We know what he can be when healthy. Yeah. Get Cole Turner back.
Cole Turner's back.
Bring in Tristan Smith.
Yeah, you got your new 6'5", big body wide receiver that can go up and get the ball. Hey, that room's looking good.
Yep. You might need to add another body. We'll see. With the departures of Noble Johnson and Troy Stellato, you're kind of, but you are adding Juju Preston and Marquise Henderson will more than likely count towards the wide receiver numbers ultimately. Yeah. But your starters, especially, I mean, there's not many wide receiver rooms I'm taking over Clemson's next year.
Mm-hmm.
John Sarian says, wasn't Jack Smith highly rated? Lol, so much for accurate high school assessments translating into college. Yeah, I will say with specialists, it is kind of hitter. I mean, we saw what Robert Gunn was rated coming out.
That didn't work out.
Yeah, that has not been. I mean, he's been a phenomenal kickoff specialist.
Yeah, I mean, he can kick the ball out the stadium.
Yeah,
just not through the metal poles or the yellow poles.
Let's see. Tiger Tom says, couldn't watch entire Texas game today. Wasn't that Makuba with the game-winning interception? Yeah.
It was.
Great play.
He had a great game. He had a great game.
He was really good.
I mean, he's one of, if not the best defender on their team.
Yeah. John says Trey could be a starter at many Power 4 schools. So with his degree in hand, it makes sense to me if he has NFL play. Yeah, I'm with you. It would be a good opportunity for him to not be a rotation guy.
Yeah, he's looking to go be the guy somewhere, which I don't blame him at all.
Yeah.
But it is a hit to the D tackle room. I would much rather him be a Clemson Tiger, but I understand. Get it.
Intelligent Savage 629. He says, anyway, we can use Adam Randall in a Deebo Samuel type role possibly next season. I mean, I think it's on the table. I don't think he's quite as shifty as Deebo is, but the big Deebo is smaller, but he's very stocky. He's not a small dude. And Adam is certainly he's a big. I wouldn't want to tackle him.
And he's athletic. He's got some speed to him.
Yeah,
obviously not the fastest guy out there, but he's got plenty of athleticism. He's got some speed.
And his experience as a receiver.
I could see Adam Randall being in a if he ends up staying through the spring transfer portal season. Obviously we still got that transfer portal to get through before we really know what the roster looks like going into fall camp. But I could see Adam Randall having a unique role for the offense next year. Obviously they've already shown that they'll put him in the backfield. Maybe there's a little bit more development there where, he becomes some sort of hybrid where, he's got some running back responsibilities as well as, some routes out of the backfield, some motion him out. I mean, they could do a lot with him.
John says Tristan Smith isn't a speedster, but he can high point from one clip. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's got some.
He's a big body guy.
Yeah, he's got some hops. He can go up and get it. I guess any chance we get Donovan Murph? No. No. That's that deal.
The optimism there.
Yeah. I'm calling it like it is. I mean, that deal has been done.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. John says also have good tight ends next year for passing game. OPH really improved. Bentaker one to watch. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have a lot of young pieces in this tight end room, and also Pat Henry certainly acquitted himself very well as that second tight end last year.
You got to love what you saw out of Olsen Pat Henry this year.
Yeah,
I think he probably surprised everybody with his play.
Well, not me. I was always on the OPH train. No, but I didn't expect him to take the jump as early as he did. I think that was really, especially as a blocker. That was not. And at what is it? That school in Naples, Baptist. I already forgot what the name is, but that was not in his high school. That was not something he was utilized as a receiver a lot in high school. So you didn't know he had that in him. But he was a phenomenal blocker this year.
That dude is something serious on blocking.
And I think his ability as a receiver he didn't get a ton of opportunities to showcase it this year, but he will certainly next year. And he's more than capable. as a receiver. He's a very plus option there with his athleticism. So excited for him. You mentioned Christian Bentaker. Yeah, it was great. I mean, you got to redshirt him this year. You didn't need him to play a ton of minutes. I don't why I've been saying minutes today. I've been in my basketball. I don't know why, because I've watched more football than basketball. I don't know why I keep saying minutes, but he's made the most of his snaps. And you didn't have to ask Bentaker to play a lot of snaps. So he takes that next step in this offense. That could be something, man.
Yeah, look, tight end room's in great shape. Couldn't be happier about that room.
Yeah, you got true freshman Logan Brooking coming in.
I mean, as much as it sucks to lose a guy like Jake Burningstool, I mean, that's a loaded room right there.
100%. We have a super chat from Steel Gamble. Thank you so much for the $5. He says, might be looking too far into the future, but do you think Dabo goes to the portal for a quarterback when Cade is done or is gone, or does CV develop into a starter? I would not expect Dabo to go into the portal to get a starting level quarterback. I think my read has always been that Chris Fazzina is going to be the guy when Cade Klubnik leaves, but we'll see. It very much depends on Chris's development, throughout the season next year. But I think Chris he has the inside track. He's been in the system way longer than anybody else that's going to be in the room with him, whether it's Chris Denson or Tate Reynolds or Brock Bradley. So I don't anticipate that Dabo would go to the portal for a quarterback that he expects to start at least. But again, that's way down the road.
Yeah.
But
but I'm with you. I think CV's probably the guy once Cade steps away. But that's, again, assuming that he develops into the starting quarterback that we need. We'll see. He's willing to sit another year, though. So, I mean,
yeah,
that's not very common in today's world of quarterbacks to be willing to sit 3 seasons behind somebody.
We have another super chat, a real special.
Oh, man. What's up, man?
We got DeAndre in the house, BGPO Football Funk. Thank you so much for the $2. Member of the OG All In Show. He says, what's going on? Good to see you, DeAndre. What's going on, my man?
One of the ones that started the All In Show back before I think it was called the All In Show.
Yeah. Ones remember.
Yeah, one of the OGs that started this show way back when. I don't know if you saw, DeAndre, but we just celebrated our 100th episode week before last, when we were previewing the Texas game. But appreciate the support, my man. It's good to see you in here.
Absolutely, and DeAndre makes his own videos on his channel, so y'all go check him out.
Check him out.
Talks about Clemson football. Really entertaining.
A lot of good content over there.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. I'm gonna do a couple more, and then we'll call it a night. Desperate Men says the spring portal is going to be the interesting one to watch, because that's when you probably have more guys leaving when they see how they stack up. Yeah, absolutely. I mean that tends to be the one the window where you lose the most guys. Although last season, I think for Clemson, it was the opposite. I think the winter. I think
it was the December portal.
It was the December portal where they lost most of them.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was interesting. But I think you would. I mean, you only lost 5 guys in this window, so the betting, not betting, but odds are, if there are departures, they would exceed this window. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, when you only lose 5 scholarship guys, yeah, you would assume that it'll probably be more than 5.
Yeah.
We'll see, though. We'll see. But I do think Clemson will probably add to their roster in that spring portal. not just because of departures, but I think, once they see where they stack up at certain position groups, there may be some more needs that need to be addressed via the portal.
Yep.
And at that point in time, there'll be no other option other than the portal. So we'll see. Then again, you got the 105 limit that's going to kick in. So you got to balance all that stuff out. It's going to be interesting. The roster is going to be interesting between now and August timeframe, I think.
Yep. And one last super chat from DeAndre. He says, "Congratulations! I'm proud of you all." Well, thank you, DeAndre.
Thank you,
we appreciate that, man.
Thank you.
We couldn't have done it without you. Yeah,
We'll have to, now that it's the off season for Clemson, maybe we can get you on here for one of the shows and catch up. Have you talk some Clemson football on here? That'd be really cool, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. All right, y'all. I think that's going to do it for us.
That's it. We still hit 2 hours, Jordan. I don't know how. We constantly do it.
We manage. I said before the show, I was like, we'll keep it short tonight. And then
you know how many times we say that and do like 2.5 hours of content? But it's all good. Love chopping it up with you guys. We got 74 very loyal followers with us here. Still 2 hour 15 minutes in to our show. So thank you guys so much for showing up. Appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure if you have not already, you hit that like button on the way out. It's free and it helps the channel out. Thank you so much to all of our super chat. Tonight, JT Brown hit us with multiple super chats, a $10 and a $2. Thank you so much for your support of the channel. Really do appreciate it. Hamp hit us with a $5 one. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Koozie with the $5 super chat as well. Thank you for supporting the channel. Steel Gamble with the $5 super chat. And then our buddy DeAndre hit us with $2 super chats. Thank you so much for showing up and supporting the show as well. All of your guys' support is greatly appreciated. It's been an awesome season, but even though it's the off season, even though Clemson's no longer playing games, you guys know me and Jordan will be here year round bringing you Clemson football content, college football content through this long desert of an off season that we are about to enter after the national championship is over. So stick with us through the off season. I promise we'll have some good content for you, and we'll have fun talking about Clemson football, college football, and everything in between. So until next week, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.